chromatography, we typically talk in terms of CVs or column volumes rather than talking just straight volumes, because the CV is going to allow you to take a method from one column and apply it to another column that has a different column volume. And so we might say, wash it with 5 CVs of buffer, and if you know the column volume, then you can go and figure out how much buffer you'll actually need. So how do you figure out the column volume? The easiest way is just to look it up, but you can actually calculate it, and the information you need to calculate it is typically given to you in the name of the column. And so if you're wondering what those kind of weird numbers before and after the slash are on your column names, like a high prep 2610 desalting column, the 26 is going to be the internal diameter, or the ID, and then the 10 is going to be the bed height. And so the 26, this is going to be in millimeters, so your internal diameter is going to be in millimeters typically, but then the bed height, this might be in millimeters or it might be in centimeters, which gets really confusing. So the bigger columns typically are going to be in centimeters, and then the smaller ones are going to be in millimeters. But when we say smaller, that's like smaller volume and things. And so even though this Superdex column, my favorite, is a 10-300, the 300 is going to be in millimeters. And even this big old dude, which is a high-load 16-600, the 16-600, the 600 is going to be in millimeters, and so it's 60 centimeters. And so if you're looking at it, you can tell whether it's centimeters or millimeters, but if it's just online or whatever, then you're in a little more of a scenario. But how do you take these numbers and actually calculate the volume? First things first, you want to convert any numbers that are in millimeters to centimeters. And the reason why you want to do this is because we want to calculate the volume in terms of cubic centimeters, because a cubic centimeter, or cc, is equal to a milliliter. You're typically going to have to convert the internal diameter, so divide that by 10, 2.6 in this case, or 10 divided by 10 is 1 in the case of my Superdex, which, note that that's a lot smaller than the whole casing diameter, so you can't just take a ruler. You may or may not need to convert the bed height to centimeters. So in this case, this 10 was already in centimeters, but in the Superdex case, the 300 was going to be in millimeters, and so divide that by 10, I get 30. For this big old guy, divide 600 by 10, and I get 60. So now I have my bed heights and I have my internal diameters, but the internal diameter is not exactly what you need. You need the internal radius, because to find the volume, you need to find the area times the height. And so to get the area, that's pi r squared. And we have d, but we don't have r. So we need to take the internal diameter, divide that by 2, and we get the internal radius. And so we get that internal radius, we square that, we multiply that by pi, and we multiply that by the bed height, and we need to make sure everything's in centimeters, and then we end up with our volume in cubic centimeters, which again is equal to milliliters. So for the example of my Superdex 10-300, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 10 divided by 10, I get 1, divide that by 2, I get 0.5, square that, multiply that by 3.14, and then multiply that by the height in centimeters, so 300 divided by 10 is 30. Multiply all that, and I end up with a value that is about 24 milliliters. So 23.55 milliliters is the column volume for that. This big old dude, so it's short and fat, which is what you want for a desalting column, and it is going to end up being 53 mils. So even though it looks kind of like smaller than this guy, it actually holds more volume, about twice as much.